Good evening. Welcome to our Municipal Council agenda for Thursday, July 21st, 2022. I'd like to call this meeting to order and ask if there's any declarations of interest at this time. Seeing none, I would make a note that Councillor Persicini is absent without notice. With notice. I will now move to our land acknowledgement. The town of East Gwillimbury recognizes and acknowledges the lands originally used and occupied by the First Peoples of the Williams Treaty First Nations and other Indigenous peoples, and on behalf of Council, I thank them for sharing this land. We also acknowledge the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation as East Gwillimbury's closest First Nation community and recognize the unique relationship the Chippewas have with the lands and the waters of this territory. They are the water protectors and environmental stewards of these lands, and we join them in this responsibility. At this time, I'm going to move down to item D, and that's community announcements. On Tuesday, I did not share the character community. We do have correspondence regarding character community York Region on this agenda. However, I will share the attribute for the month of July, which is integrity. I will do what is right and ensure there is no difference between what I say and what I do. Integrity is doing the right thing, even when no one is watching. This week we celebrated 2 new park and trail openings, Children of Peace Park and Trail Connection, and the opening of Oriole Trail Bridge and Boardwalk Connection. It's been a very busy summer for us with all our amazing park openings, and again, I want to thank all of our staff for the work on completing these projects and planning these wonderful events for our community. At this time, I will move to item E on our agenda, and that's deputations. We have no deputations. Item F is presentations, and we have no presentations. Is that correct? Thank you. I will now move to administration, and Mr. Webster, if you would go ahead, please.
Madam Mayor, I couldn't be going to the podium to make this presentation. I understand it would be easier for public to go. Okay, so Madam Mayor, we're here tonight, and one of the few municipalities I can assure you in York Region that's having a council meeting, let alone 2 in 1 week, and I think it shows how hard we're working collectively. So I'd like to say good evening to yourself and members of council. If you can believe it, it's been 1,326 days since the inaugural for this term of council. And the meeting was held on December 4th, 2018, just to remind the folks. It gives us great pleasure tonight to bring the 2018 to 2022 council term and review presentation. Collectively, we've achieved a lot in those days since the inaugural. This presentation will highlight the accomplishments over the past 4 years that staff and following council's direction have achieved, and how these accomplishments reflect the priorities outlined in our strategic plan. I will provide some introductory remarks and provide some context for the presentation, and I will then introduce Deputy CAO Mark Valchich, who will talk about our COVID-19 response, which was really a game changer that hit not only our organization, but in fact the whole world. I'll then return to the podium to talk about some of our accomplishments of Team EG. This presentation regarding our strategic priorities and the accomplishments under the priorities will be dealt with through Meeta Gandhi, who will walk us through the accomplishments and outcomes as they relate to each of the priorities. After each section, we will encourage comments and questions from members of council, and department heads will be available to answer any questions and provide responses. I'm certain that none of us anticipated this term of council that we had. On election night, in 2018, there was no hint that we would be dominated, our lives would be dominated within 17 months of this term. And it was in March of 2020 that things changed and our organization collectively reacted. At the same time as COVID arose, East Gwillimbury has experienced unprecedented growth in population. And so the demand for programs, services, and infrastructure was and continues to be at an all-time high. Like every other municipality in Canada and the world, the pandemic had a huge impact on us. But we continued to support our community, most recently having council adopt an official plan in accordance with the provincial and regional guidelines that protects our community forever for being 83% green. I will now turn this over to Deputy CAO Mark Valchich, who will walk through our COVID-19 response.
Thank you very much, Mr. Webster, and good evening, Madam Mayor and members of council. As Mr. Webster indicated, when we started this term, it's funny because each year we start off, and I remember in Tom's office each year he'd have a list on his whiteboard of the planned items for the year, and then each year there would be a few things that would get onto the bottom as unplanned. When we started this term of council, you had a strategic plan and we had business and budgets for each year. And I don't think any of us expected over 2 years to be consumed with responding to the global pandemic. In support of those pandemic efforts, when that started, we immediately established what we called our COVID-19 control group. And I just want to mention that that really was a modified version of what we call our Emergency Operations Center. And so we have a protocol when we have emergencies that our senior team and some extended members of our management team assemble, and we have a process that our emergency services department trains us on each year so that in the event we have an emergency, we can respond. When the COVID emergency hit, we adapted that a little bit to what we called a COVID-19 control group, but we did stick to what's called the Incident Management System protocol for assessing our issues, planning, communicating, and so on. And really, in my mind, there were two key success factors in addition to the strength of our council and our administration working together, was that we had that EOC training and that sort of muscle memory in place. So we were ready to act very quickly and with quite a bit of discipline within an established framework. And we also had, from 2018, a recently established program for continuous improvement called the Municipal Peak Performance Program. So we were already looking at how to drive creativity, innovation, improvements to programs and services within our organization. COVID simply took that, and the silver lining was it put that program on steroids because we had no choice but to react very quickly. Within the community, we hosted 13 vaccination clinics over that period of time, and I will say we really had very good partnership and collaboration, not only with York Region Public Health, but with the provincial public health agencies and Blue Cross and so on. And so they were very successful clinics that were held, and we continue to support the region in the vaccination efforts. We also pivoted in terms of how we deliver and operate services. Tonight's meeting is a great example. Tonight's is a hybrid meeting, but in fact, during the 2 years of the pandemic, we held 77 meetings completely virtually. And so business of the town, I think with the exception of one meeting at the very beginning when COVID hit, essentially continued almost seamlessly. And so and I always use this example as we've for years in some of our emergency services training talked about what's our backup EOC. If there's an emergency in a physical location is not available, where will you go? With COVID now, we realize there's going to be a backup physical location, but there's also a virtual backup plan that means we can be anywhere and continue to operate. So from a business continuity point of view, we learned a lot. We continued to support the community through programs such as our curbside service and virtual technology assistance that was offered through our libraries. And I'm pleased to report that despite the fact that we implemented new ways of doing business, we still successfully managed the financial impacts of COVID with no net impact to the overall budget of the town. So that was great news for the residents of East Gwillimbury. And that was certainly not consistent amongst all municipalities. So I think EG did a great job in that regard. The numbers on this slide, Madam Mayor, speak to the collective efforts to communicate and engage council and staff through the COVID pandemic. Our efforts to inform council included 41 COVID-19 memos, 20 virtual town halls, and by virtual town halls, those are town hall meetings that include all of our staff, and I know the mayor and members of council joined us for many of those. We had 220 COVID control group meetings, 83 emails to staff and council, and participation in 109 regional emergency operations center meetings. And I do want to point out, Madam Mayor, that because of our, I think our training and our experience and dedication to using this EOC approach, we were asked by the Regional Emergency Management Coordinator to speak at the Regional Emergency Management Workshop, their annual workshop, where all regional municipalities meet last year, and EG's approach throughout the pandemic and how we responded was actually held up as a best practice throughout the region. So something that I think council and staff can be very proud of. Next slide. As with any crisis, it's important to find ways to grow stronger, and certainly that's what we did. We knew that businesses were struggling. Our Director of Economic Development, I thought, did a great job outreaching to businesses throughout East Gwillimbury that were struggling as a result of the impacts, which really transitioned from a global health emergency to a global economic crisis very quickly. And as part of that, we established a $250,000 emergency response benefit program, and we supported 37 different businesses throughout East Gwillimbury. And I know firsthand from hearing back from many of those businesses that that meant the difference between continuing operations and not. So I think, again, East Gwillimbury did a great job, trying to make sure that we did what we could to support the local businesses. We certainly accelerated our modernization efforts with an emphasis on service improvement initiatives, and we transitioned many programs to online, and we established what we called the Build Back Better initiative. Our Build Back Better initiative, the objective was really to look at how did we do business prior to COVID, and how were we adapting and doing new things during COVID, take the best of both of those and put them together to what we call Build Back Better. So let's be better than we were before and better than we were during. And we asked ourselves, what opportunities do we have to improve service delivery through enhancing flexibility, innovation, and in many cases, sometimes doing it more efficiently and even driving down cost, which is really what, the beneficiaries of that are our residents and our businesses, and that's something we look to prioritize. We were looking to increase cost savings, enhance efficiencies, provide more responsive, accessible, inclusive service delivery, and build a Team EG that was engaged, skilled, empowered to deliver service excellence. So through that Build Back Better initiative, we heard a number of things as we outreached both to council, to staff, and we outreached to members of the community that we were in touch with. We heard the need for flexibility in the way we work and how we work, and the importance of using technology to facilitate that approach. And I should point out that we were able to capitalize also on some of the provincial contributions of funding that we received to help us modernize, and we've augmented that with town investment and commitments, and I think the paybacks have been tremendous. We heard throughout the 2 years of COVID response that it was important to continue to find meaningful ways for individuals to connect directly, and so that was a priority for us as we thought about how we wanted to build back better. And we needed to rethink customer service so that residents and businesses could access programs and services from the town in more flexible ways, in ways that were best suited for them, and maybe in terms of even timeframes that are suitable for them. In terms of online access, for example, suddenly you've got sort of 24/7 ability for folks to do things that they can't otherwise do if they have to come in and meet face-to-face with someone during operating hours. So really trying to think about what makes things better for our residents and our businesses. And we're actively working on the resulting to-do list. We have lots more opportunities that we see ourselves able to take advantage of. I'm now going to turn it back to CAO Webster, who's going to talk a little bit about how Team EG has evolved and changed over the past 4 years.
Thank you, Mark. And I will take a moment or two now just to talk about, before we get into the strategic plan and the community outcomes, just to talk a little bit about how our organization itself has evolved and become more diverse and inclusive, just as our community has. You'll see as we started this term, this was our senior management team. And pictures can say 1,000 words, so I'd just like to reflect now and maybe go to the next slide, which reflects where we are now. And you know, we're proud that we've added new people, and we feel that this leadership team is more diverse, inclusive, and just as our community has become more diverse and inclusive. Our extended management team is another group that meets on a quarterly basis, and you can see again the many new faces and of that group. We're also very happy to announce that we move forward with a key initiative regarding environmental and sustainability, and recently hired our new program manager for environmental initiatives, Christina Ross, who's come to the town and will be bringing forward some wonderful ideas and with regards to environment and sustainability in the near future. Diversity and inclusion is a critical component of this organization as we move forward. Another key component is supporting our staff through training and development programs. We continue to promote staff from within, provide acting opportunities, stretch assignments, secondments, and if you can see in the number, there was 73 staff development opportunities, and I actually acid tested this when I said, geez, I think we only have about 150 employees. We actually have a few more when you count the fire folks. And you know, it's a number that's large that shows that we're an organization that gives employees a chance to grow and be more and do more. We also focused on leadership and staff development through our Forward 2025 initiative. We currently have looked at many of our program areas. We focused on development services and our building branch, our finance area, and we're currently at this point in time taking a look at our human resources function within the CAO's office, as well as our community parks, recreation, and culture area. And we also have several of our senior management team staff hold board member positions on professional associations. Myself, I'm on the Ontario Municipal Administrators Association. Aaron Karmazin is on the Pro Directors Board, and we have many other of our leaders who have either taught or made presentations about the great things happening at EG through organizations. Within our organization, I think Mark touched on that we've introduced an online learning management tool. And that system, if you can take a look at some of the numbers, have some pretty good statistics. Had 305 users, 60 courses posted, and by tracking the online time, over 4 months of cumulative training time. So staff are continuing to develop and improve. I'd like now to take this time to take a turn to our report on the accomplishments on those services and priorities we identified through the strategic plan. When this council first was oriented, one of the key priorities was in adopting a new strategic plan, which was done early in Q1 of 2019. We've used that document to guide our programs, services, and follow the council direction on the initiatives throughout this term. There are 4 strategic priorities in this plan. They are responsible growth and environmental protection, quality programs and services, building complete communities, and a culture of municipal excellence. To ensure our strategic plan is successfully implemented, in our business plan and budget process each year, we approve a council-approved corporate objectives list, and it's included. And one of the things Mark indicated was, I have a board, and you know, to make sure we're doing the right things, I often say, if we're doing the things that council's approved and have set our priorities, we're doing the right things. If we're not doing things that are on that list, we're in the wrong swimming pool. And Mark did identify invariably each year we have unplanned initiatives or additional accomplishments that come along, and these are things that we keep track of. The strategic plan is also built into not only the business plan and budget, but our employee development plans, which are put together through our annual process for performance. I'd like now to invite Meeta Gandhi, who is new to our organization this term, to speak about some of the key accomplishments related to each of the strategic priorities. As I said earlier, we will pause at the end of each section and to provide an opportunity for council to provide any comments or insights that they see going forward, and we will have staff available to answer any questions. So, Meeta, I will ask you to join the podium.
I will just turn to my section. Thank you, CEO Webster. Before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge that this presentation is a product of teamwork. It was a collaborative effort involving all departments and with notable support from Gail Moniz, Danielle Vernet, and Rachel Thompson. As was mentioned earlier, the strategic plan for this term of council was developed before COVID-19 was ever even mentioned or contemplated. And yet, despite the challenges that we faced with the pandemic, this presentation will show that we accomplished a great deal. I'll start with the Build Complete Communities priority. With this priority, our goal is to invest in core infrastructure to connect and serve our growing community. The photo pictured here is the Oriole Trail Bridge and Boardwalk, which we officially opened yesterday. I think it's fair to say that our biggest accomplishment for this priority, and arguably in the town's history, is the construction of the Operations Center. This 57,000 square foot facility now supports our roads, water, and parks operations. The project was completed within the $18.5 million budget and was funded entirely through development charges with no cost to the taxpayer for design and construction. We also made significant advancements on the design and procurement efforts for the Health and Active Living Plaza. The work is well underway, with shovels expected to be in the ground by the end of the year. Over this term of council, we also opened 14 new parks, including the Children of Peace Park pictured here, which was officially opened earlier this week. Other parks include Queensville Park, which officially opens next month, Couples Farm Park, Vista Hills Park, and Ridgeview Park Phase 2. Our trail network grew by 8 kilometers, and we now have 30 kilometers of trail through EG, including the trails pictured here, Silk Twist Trail and Oriole Trail. Linked to the trail and park network and other town infrastructure is our streetscape and urban design work, including our signature planter program. Building parks and trails and improving our urban landscape are all part of building complete communities, and each of these projects involves significant community consultation. We also engage community on the official plan review, revitalization projects in Mount Albert and Holland Landing, and our Health and Active Living Plaza. To address our Build Complete Communities priorities, we also launched the Mount Albert and Holland Landing revitalization projects and implemented the broadband strategy. Supporting local business is key to building complete communities. That's why we launched Business Advantage and continue to work with new and existing businesses through our community. We also measure what we do, and through our 2021 Business Retention and Expansion Survey, we learned that 96% of business that there is a 96% business satisfaction rate. Keeping our roads, water, and wastewater systems and buildings in good repair is crucial for building complete communities as people rely on these assets. Through this term of council, we developed and implemented a multi-year asset management program and delivered the 2022 asset management plan. We also installed the community flagpole and Pride crosswalk at the Civic Center, implemented the King Street traffic management pilot, and successfully developed the natural gas expansion program in partnership with Enbridge. Having diverse and affordable housing options are part of building complete communities, and so we continue to work with stakeholders who build housing for seniors and for those with lower incomes. Rivera Retirement Home is a 206-unit retirement building, and Passage House is an 18-unit transitional housing building development that Housing York and Blue Door are building. Both above and below ground infrastructure is key to building complete communities. During this term of council, We work towards expanding sanitary servicing to support the town's employment land north of Green Lane, and we continue to work with the province and York Region on key projects, including the 400-404 connector and rapid transit expansion programs. Within our Emergency and Community Safety Services Department, we are taking an innovative approach to modernization through a joint fire services assessment with the town of Georgina, funded by the province's Municipal Modernization Program. That's the program that Mark mentioned earlier. We are looking at ways to deliver these services, critical services, in a way that is more modern and efficient. Our ECSS team continues to provide critical services to the community, and to support these efforts, they recently procured a 111-foot aerial fire truck and replaced a pumper fire truck. In other parts of our organization, we look to modernizing and improving services to support our communities. This includes renovations at the Mount Albert Library branch, consolidating the fire, traffic, and parking bylaw, and coordinating and automating the servicing to support the Vince's redevelopment. I'd like to turn to some numbers that reflect our efforts to build complete communities. I'll highlight just a few. From 2018 to 2022, town staff performed 42,871 building inspections, executed 39 subdivision and site plan agreements, constructed 15 kilometers of new water mains, issued 3,469 building permits, constructed 24 kilometers of new roads, and prepared 403 planning recommendation reports and memos to council. I'd like to pause here for questions and comments.
Thank you. Questions or comments? I'm not seeing any. Please proceed.
Pardon me. For the responsible growth and environmental protection priority, our goal is to ensure responsible and balanced growth management by incorporating progressive standards and a commitment to preserve our environment and heritage as we grow. That's the approach we are taking in the development of Woodbine 1, the largest employment development in the town's history, which will generate 1,000 new local jobs. Planning and allocating land specifically for employment purposes is one of the elements that contributes to the official plan, a document that guides how land in the community will be used. EG's official plan was recently adopted, and there are 2 points to highlight. Number one, EG was the first municipality in the region to adopt the OP in conformity with provincial guidelines. And number two, and this is a point that was mentioned earlier as well, even at full build-out, East Gwillimbury will remain 83% green. There are a number of master plans that are also in development or completed. This includes the economic development, transportation, water and wastewater, stormwater, development charges, library, and active transportation master plans. During this term of council, the Cannabis Production Facilities Land Use Bylaw was passed, and there was resolution of the Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority appeal. Responsible growth means that we must put plans and guidelines in place, and that's what we did with the completion of the award-winning Highway 404 Employment Corridor Secondary Plan, the Heritage Register Review, the Townwide Urban Design Manual, Parking Lot and Drive-Through Urban Design Guidelines, and the Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw Review. On the environment protection front, we are making significant strides to improve energy efficiency and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. We're doing this by purchasing hybrid and electric vehicles, increasing our complement of electric vehicle charging stations, and adding energy-efficient lighting at our facilities. We have a salt management plan to protect our water, and our Sustainable Development Incentive Program has become the regional standard. The image you see here on this slide is a summary of some of the environmental design features of the new Operations Center, which include EV charging stations, white roof technology, rainwater harvesting, a greenhouse and tree farm, and high-efficient heating, ventilation, and air conditioning units. Our environmental initiatives are also include a partnership with York Region and nonprofits for battery, textile, and electronics recycling. To support our environmental initiatives, we hired a program manager, who the CA mentioned earlier, The program manager is meeting with internal and external stakeholders, compiling a list of environmental-related projects, programs, and initiatives, and will be assisting with the town's environment strategy and climate change adaptation plan. To support our efforts, Council recently approved the Climate Change Reserve, which is in place to mitigate climate change impacts to town infrastructure, operations, and the community. Responsible growth and environmental protection is very much tied to building complete communities, and so there are links between the two in terms of accomplishments. With responsible growth comes the responsibility to ensure that our drinking water is safe. Since 2017, East Gwillimbury received a 100% score on Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks inspections of the Drinking Water Quality Management Standard System. We're also planning for future infrastructure replacement and new construction with the 10-year capital plan for assets and infrastructure, including water and wastewater, roads, bridges, sidewalks, streetlights, stormwater systems, and fleet. A considerable component of our infrastructure efforts is on working towards an interim servicing solution as we anticipate the Upper York sewage solution. I'll close off the report on this priority with a few other accomplishments. Over the past 4 years, we completed an update and amendment to the Development Charge Bylaw, ensuring growth pays for growth. We're developing multi-year servicing strategies for the Highway 404 employment lands and Green Lane Business Park. And we maintained an annual paid-on-call recruitment process through the COVID-19 challenges. Here are some highlights by the numbers as it relates to responsible growth and environmental protection. Over the 4-year period, we conducted more than 30 official plan review engagement sessions. We collected 29,360 tons of residential waste. We gathered almost 15,000 water samples, and we installed 4,000 new water meters and replaced an additional 5,000 water meters. We'll pause here for questions and comments.
Are there any questions or comments at this time? I'm not seeing any. Please go ahead.
Municipalities are probably best known for the programs and services we deliver. Our goal for this priority is to provide affordable programs and services which celebrate our quality of place, culture, heritage, and natural environment while promoting a healthy, inclusive, and safe community. In keeping with this priority, we continue to refine and deliver an effective winter maintenance program. Through this term, we also expanded library collection items and now have sensory kits, light therapy lamps, and early literacy skills. Literacy kits, rather. We also installed a library locker at the sports complex and brought the library outdoors through story walks and other activities. And for the upcoming 2022 election, we are promoting voter turnout and educating residents about the voting process. Our camp programs continued to be a huge success, and earlier this year, we converted space at the sports complex to create the loft. Our events continue, including music nights, farmers markets, and this year, we're bringing back Tapestry of Taste. Our public notice signage has improved with better layout and readability. And within our community, we initiated the Heritage Conservation District study for the Sharon community. We continue to work with the region on business continuity planning as part of the emergency management program as well. Improving access to service is a key component of this priority, and that was a focus over the past 4 years. We did this by establishing new online zoning and planning applications mapping tool, automated the building permit review process, established online self-service access to tax and water account history and transactions, and launched e-billing and online payment ability for water and tax bills. The image on this screen is a new web page we created on eastgwillimbury.ca, which has links to the various online payment or transaction tools that are now available to residents. You will note that each of the 4 priorities are depicted as puzzle pieces which are connected. This priority is no different as it links with the other priorities, so outcomes are also similar. Over this term of council, we relaunched environmental programs like textile recycling, battery recycling, and reuse days. We completed the pedestrian crossover and home landing in partnership with York Region. We installed a new mini road mini road weather information system on King Street in Mount Albert, and we implemented liquid ice anti-icing program. Our Emergency and Community Safety Services Department enhanced our digital smoke and carbon monoxide program, and the results really do save lives. In 2019, ECSS gave an EG family 2 new smoke alarms to install in their home as part of the town smoke and carbon monoxide alarm program. Those same smoke alarms saved the lives of those family members as they were able to escape a fire at their home just last month on June 10th. ECSS staff continue to educate the community at town and community efforts, including the Fire Prevention Week open house, farmers markets, and Emergency Preparedness Week. Over this term of council, ECSS also improved its technology, which contributes to improved service delivery and data analytics. The team provided corporate-wide emergency management training and Run, Hide, Defend training, and launched various training and development courses for ECSS staff. The numbers tell an incredible story about our quality programs and services priority. Among them, we had 5,099 summer camp registrations, and that's even with camps closed in 2020 due to COVID. More than 18,000 people attended farmers market, and this excludes data from 2018 and 2019, so the number is likely much greater. More than 10,000 school students visited the library, and there were more than 460,000 physical library items that were circulated. On the customer service front, we received more than 120,000 calls, and 82,000 emails from 2018 to 2022, and we collected almost 35,000 payments. More than 6,000 self-service accounts were established on our payment portal, and we visited 3,510 homes as a part of the smoke and carbon monoxide alarm program, as well as we completed 1,579 fire inspections. Before we move on to our culture of municipal excellence priority, we'll pause here for questions and comments.
Councillor Roy DiClemente, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is actually related to the call center volume. It says that 6% of calls were abandoned. I think that's pretty, at least from my experience professionally, that's pretty standard for a call center. I'm wondering what sorts of strategies we're employing to make sure that that number drops, so that it's not an industry standard, but that it's below that's below those sorts of statistics.
Through you, Madam Mayor, that's an excellent question. And what we are doing is we are implementing a new customer relationship management software. Traditionally, we have not only been an inbound customer contact center, we have also been responding to customers and sending messages outwards. Our efforts through the new customer relationship management is that it'll automate emails so people will know that their service request is completed, and that will alleviate the need for our customer service reps to make outbound calls, allowing more calls to come in. And so as much as we automate systems and allow people for self-serve options, it frees up our line and it allows for a much lower abandon rate.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? I'm not seeing any. Go ahead, please.
Through the culture of municipal excellence priority, our goal is to foster a culture of service excellence, engagement, and transparency. There are many accomplishments to speak of, and I will provide some highlights here. The first of which is the fact that we ensured effective delivery of programs and services within the council-approved business plan and budget and the water and wastewater budget. The slide indicates 2022. However, the same applied for every year of council. We continue to examine how we operate and conduct service delivery reviews to place an objective lens on our organization and on our efforts. In this term of council, we recreated the new EG logo with input from the community, and we established the equity, diversity, and inclusion framework with the pillars of engage, educate, and express. Last year, we proudly launched 2 new websites, eastgwillimbury.ca and advantageeg.ca. We also implemented a corporate-wide document management system that is already reaping the benefits of time and process efficiencies. Other improvements were with the new procurement bidding procurement bidding system, and a new budgeting system. With our library services, we launched a multilingual library collection and permanently removed fines at East Gwillimbury Library, creating an inclusive and positive library experience. The changes we implemented, including the online services and process improvements, are guided by the Municipal Peak Performance Program, which helps staff to drive innovation and service improvements across the organization. On the non-technical side of things, we improve community safety by implementing the Safer Streets Initiative and starting the East Town Line Bridge repair. Building a culture of municipal excellence is also about recognizing when we meet our goals and objectives. This is important to do within the organization, and it's particularly rewarding when external groups recognize our efforts as well. Over this term of council, we received more than 20 awards for town efforts, and these include the Top Employee Recommended Workplace, the Pro Award for Excellence for the Nikita Trail, several awards from the Government Finance Officers Association for year-end reporting, the EDCO Award of Excellence for the Highway 404 Employment Corridor Secondary Plan, the IPAC Award for Innovative Management for the Municipal Peak Performance Program, and recognition from the Lake Simcoe and Region Conservation Authority for multiple projects. In our online communication efforts, we're seeing some good numbers. We gained 1,250 Twitter followers and 4,000 Facebook followers from 2018 to 2022. And there have been more than 400,000 website sessions, which is where people actively engage with the website. I'll conclude the presentation with a summary of our financial position. Earlier in the presentation, we noted that throughout the term of council, we ensured effective delivery of programs and services within the council-approved business plan and budget and the water and wastewater budget. We also maintained zero debt status despite a $45 million in capital expenditures. Over the 4-year period, we also received $17 million in grant funding and collected more than $62 million in development charges and community capital contributions to fund growth-related infrastructure. The tax assessment growth averaged over 12% a year, and the tax levy increase on base programs and services averaged 0.7% per year. These numbers say that we maintained a strong financial position through the term of council, even with added pressures from COVID-19 and unprecedented growth. This concludes the presentation on the 2018 to 2022 council term in review. Although the term of council is coming to a close, our work doesn't stop as we continue to deliver on the goals of the 2019 to 2022 strategic plan. When the next term of council begins, we will have in-depth discussions about the priorities that will shape the strategic plan for the 2022 to 2026 term of council. We welcome your questions and comments on this presentation.
Thank you very much. Wow. Very, very well done. It's quite remarkable when you see it put together. I think all of us have some of those numbers in our head, but to put them all together, it's been quite a 4 years. Any questions or comments at this point from members of council? Councillor Crone, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to staff, I too would like to extend my congratulations on putting all that together. It's I can't imagine what it's like to put together that. It's like it's almost like an annual report, but you have to do it 4 times over for each year. So that's it's tremendous, and it shows you don't realize how much work we've accomplished together, both as elected and staff. We did great things in this term, so it is appreciated. So I think everyone on this side of the table is a little round of applause for everything that you've done for us. Appreciate it. Question about the annual tax increase. I know you if you could, would it be possible to go back to that slide? I think it was about 2 slides ago. And the numbers, yes. There you go. So we had an annual 0.7% on base programs and services. Now, is that in totality with what the average citizen would experience on their property tax bill, 0.7% on average per year? Or is it, so to me, I would think it would be a little higher, but quite happy to accept this number.
Madam Mayor, the number is actually a little higher on the town basis. It also does not include the element of the charge we put away for funding the startup of the help.
Yeah.
We've been chipping away at that. In certain years, it was 1%. I think in the last couple of years during COVID, it wasn't quite 1%. It's also important to note, though, that the impact on the residents includes the regional charge. And the region has kept their taxes very low during this COVID period, too. So in my perception of my time here, this is the lowest taxed term of council that we've had. And I know prior to my start here that it was quite often a lot higher than that. So I think this has probably been the most fiscally responsible term for a council as far as residents' tax increases.
I would say so. Through you, Madam Mayor, I would say so in living memory, for me anyways. So I would, at some point, I would be curious to get a number on the aggregate of what the...
We could ask our treasurer, Mr. Marshall, and his team to maybe put a little bit more of a briefing note together for council so they can understand how we might compare to past council terms and the aggregate impact.
Oh, that would be...
And the other one we often remind council is that you have the water component too, and that's part of the total outlay. And the 1.3%, I think the last 2 years for sure, it's actually been, the council's just maintained a 0% increase. And again, that's the lowest I've had in my time here.
And through you, Madam Mayor, I think during our time here on the water bill, our the rates, the charges we've been getting from our sole supplier, I think one year we had an increase of about 9%, if I'm not mistaken. So those are impressive numbers that we've been able to maintain that. I guess, Madam Mayor, just if I have one more
Certainly,
question,
go ahead.
I'm really impressed with everything that I see. I know in councils past, we've done a little booklet, printed a booklet. I know there were some plans for social media and whatnot. Not everyone has access to social media. We have some seniors. I would be interested to see if we could, if it's not too much of a burden, to put together a little booklet that I know some of our seniors would like to see. It's a good news story that we can share. We could put them in the libraries throughout town and promote what we have done almost as I said earlier, like an annual report that we could share with staff. I know there might be some cost to it, but we don't have to go overboard and print more copies than we need. But I think that might be of value. I'm curious to hear what my colleagues think on that, but I throw that out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Webster?
Councillor, and through the mayor, this has been raised to me by a few members of council, including Madam Mayor. And in the past, we did a hard copy, and what we did, this is a placemat that corporate communications put together. The issue you have when you start distilling it, like to maybe 5 initiatives, it gets difficult. What makes the list, what doesn't? And so what we would be prepared to do, we talked to Ms. Gandhi and her team yesterday, is use our similar kind of format where we turn it into a bit of a brochure. We don't mail it out to every resident, but what we do is it's available online, firstly, and it's also, we put it in our community centers, our libraries, and City Hall, Town Hall here to allow for people to touch it and feel it. And, you know, to us, it's something that as a staff team and council collectively, we're pretty proud of to get the message out. And so I think we are prepared to undertake that. It'd be a little extra effort, but maybe Ms. Gandhi, you could fill in the blanks on what you think the level of effort and costing could be on that.
Through Madam Mayor, we are still looking at the costing of it. Ideally, this would be something that we printed, again, not for every household, but to put in our various centers. I think it's generally known that people don't read really in-depth, like multiple-page documents. They'll read a 2-3 pager. Our efforts of doing the placemat was sort of one of the tools that we can use, and we'll still use that and post it on our website if somebody just wants at a glance to see what some of the key accomplishments are. But in fairness, it doesn't include any of the details that were in the speaking notes, so there's a little bit of context that's lost. So we will write a more fulsome 2 to 3, I'm envisioning sort of a trifold document that could be prepared, and I will work with the rest of the team to make sure that it's done within a reasonable budget.
I'm seeing nods in both directions. Thank you very much. Councillor Crothers, then Councillor Roy DiClemente.
Thank you. I echo the previous comments. This is absolutely amazing, and thank you for all the time in putting this together, but more importantly, all the time it took to actually accomplish these things. This is really something else, and considering we did this all through COVID, it's really amazing. I agree completely that we should be sending this out to our residents. It'd be nice if we could stick it in a water bill or a tax bill. I'm not sure when the next round is going out, but I think that it's really something that to let our residents see this. I had one question on the 14 new parks. I think that was a number we started throwing around, and yesterday someone was saying there was actually only 11, and that includes the trails. The 14 included 14 celebrations, which one was the planter and one was the ops center. So I think we just need to check that, and it's parks and trails. I think there was a number of parks and then a few trails. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page with that. I'm looking at our website and it's showing 11, and that includes the planter. So
Through
we
you,
just check the number.
I could, through you, Madam Mayor, the 14 is for through the term of council. The 11 is for this year.
Got it. Okay, thank you so much. Good.
Thank you. Councillor Roy DiClemente, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As we were talking about the puzzle pieces, I was reminded of how many jigsaw puzzles my family did over the course of the lockdowns, and so how are we to have known? But how fitting is that theme for our strategic plan? Again, echoing what my colleagues have said, you know, if this were to be a report card, we would be getting straight A's. When I look at my kids' report cards and when my kids look at their report cards, they also want to know where they could do better. And through you, Madam Mayor, I'll ask Mr. CAO, what could we have done differently, or was there something that we missed that we could have done, or do you feel that we've hit all of the marks?
That's a difficult question. I think we've done very well, clearly. I think some of the initiatives maybe lagged a little, maybe on the environmental side. It took us a while to get there, but to me, sometimes when you lag in areas, you also, it gives you opportunities for the future. And one of the things we have moving forward is, this is the first time we've had inflation like this. I think yesterday that we were starting to hear 8% inflation, and we haven't had that for many, many years. And I think the challenge moving forward is going to be to continue on this thing, and we really look forward to working with council, as Mita said. In September, we're going to bring forward some sort of year-end type of financials, and also start talking about what are the top challenges moving forward. And the one thing that it didn't have is the biggest unplanned initiative was COVID. But in any given year, you have a bunch of unplanned elements, and everything from dikes breaking this term to things that you just didn't have planned, and we've done a nice job of tackling them too. And so I think the key for us is to continue to hire good people, develop the good people out in the staff team, and just make sure that each year, I think one of the things that defines our organization and why we're doing well is we really get the corporate priorities for council nailed each year and clearly identified, and we use them. One thing we'll go over as we move forward as a management practice is we have a council action tracker. And I've had a few members of council ask me, like, how do you keep track of the items so that things aren't slipping through the cracks? And we recently updated our team. And at this point in time, after all the things have been said and done, we have 9 items on that action tracker that remain outstanding. And, we could share that with council as well. But, I think that the systems we put in place, and our next challenge is going to be customer service, because I think as we automate things and make it easier for things to get done, you'll continue to improve. So I hope that somewhat attempts at an answer.
It does. No, it wasn't an easy question, but it often isn't when I ask them. So, but I think, given the hundreds of deliverables having 9 items versus, the hundreds that have even been highlighted today, certainly is very telling. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? I guess I just have a comment that when you take a look at this, it's really remarkable to go back 4 years and start to do a check of the things that have taken place. Many of the ideas came from members of council. Initially in either first year or first couple of years, some of them the reason why people ran for council. But we have to remember that it was our staff that made it happen. Without a qualified, excited, motivated staff, many of these ideas would not have taken place. Many of them would not have gone to fruition. And I, on behalf of all of council, want to pass along our thanks and gratitude and congratulations to the staff that we have here that many times had to read our minds on the kinds of things that we were talking about, and were able to in such a way that it was very exciting when we saw the outcome. So I please pass that along to our staff. We're only as good as the people that are here with us. So thank you very, very much. I guess I would need a motion to receive Mita's presentation, moved by Councillor Crothers, seconded by Councillor Morton. All those in favor? And that's carried. We now are item number 2 of administration, and that's a verbal update announcement regarding the new East Gwillimbury Public Library Chief Executive Officer Angela Ramsey. And before we hear from our CAO, on behalf of council, I extend congratulations to Angela on her appointment as CAO. Angela has been with us for just over 10 years and has certainly done a terrific job. I want to share that she has temporarily stepped in the CAO position in March of 2020 to cover a maternity leave, just before we were faced with the pandemic that none of us could ever have anticipated. Angela did an impressive job of responding to the ever-changing demands of the pandemic with her talented team, presented creative and innovative ideas and programs to ensure our residents stayed connected and connected with the library. Angela, on behalf of council, we wish you well and know that you will continue to do a wonderful job for us and be very successful in this position. Congratulations. And Mr. Webster, I'll turn it over to you now.
Madam Mayor, I was wondering if our liaison to the library board might want to say a few words, and then I could maybe
Thank
give some
you.
perspectives on behalf of
My
staff.
apologies. Go
That's
ahead.
okay. He's putting me on the spot, so it's all fair. All's fair. It's been my pleasure to work with Angela over not only just this term, but over the years as her tenure at the public library. And she has been thrown some significant curveballs through her career and through her time with us, and she's knocked them all out of the park. And this was quite honestly an easy decision for the board to have made. And I know that she has the support of the extended management team here at the town. And she was a valued member of the COVID response team. I know Mr. Valchich is nodding. I know that this is a wonderful fit for our community, and our library is in a wonderful spot and can only continue to improve with Angela at the helm. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments from members of council? I'm not seeing any. Mr. Webster, go ahead, please.
Maybe I shouldn't have said that, because you said all the things I was going to say. But what I can tell you is, over the years, we've had different relationships with different library boards and different library CEOs. And I think this is probably the 5th or 6th in my time here of CEOs we've had. And during the most recent term, the library chair, Diana Robichaud, the council liaison, and I know at one point it was Councillor Morton, and we've had many other members as well here, I think Councillor Carruthers as well. And the relationship with our board is at a very good time right now. And Monica Mahachek rose the bar of working as a member of our leadership team. And I think it shows the importance of learning and continual learning and in our community, and how important that is. And library is a fairly significant component of our tax bill. And, you know, to let it operate on its own has value, but I think right now we are really working together. And what I can tell you about Angela is she had a quiet 10 years here until we started seeing her when Monica was off on maternity leave at the COVID meetings. And I'll tell you, she knocked our collective socks off. And she was such a energetic part of that. And library was a big impact. It was one of the most highly impacted areas. And we really enjoyed working with Monica. And I can assure you that the leadership team here, which Angela is part of, were absolutely thrilled when we heard that she had become the new CEO. So congratulations to Angela, and we enjoy and look forward to working with her as part of our leadership team for many years to come.
Thank you, Mr. Webster.
I'm on the call.
Oh,
So
there
I-
you are. Oh, go
Yes,
ahead.
I'm virtual, so I just want to say thank you, Mr. Webster, and good evening, Madam Mayor and members of council. I'm extremely grateful to be in this new role. Having worked at East Gwillimbury Public Library for 10 years, I've witnessed a strong library system that empowers so many people. We have a bright and enthusiastic team and a growing community, the perfect match for success. As CEO of the library, I look forward to contributing to a positive and hopeful future, and I'm committed to reducing barriers so that using the library is seamless for everyone. I appreciate your warm welcome and look forward to the years ahead.
Thank you very much, Angela.
Thank you.
I have a motion in front of me. Councillor Roy DeClemente, would you move that motion? And I think Councillor Morton, you probably sat on the library board longer than anybody else. Would you second that motion for us, please? Thank you. Be it resolved that the administration verbal update dated July 21st, 2022, entitled Announcement Regarding the New East Gwillimbury Public Library Chief Executive Officer, Angela Ramsey, be received. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much, Angela. Good to have you with us tonight, too.
Thank you.
Did you want to go ahead?
Madam Mayor, I just wanted to comment that before we get to the Development Services section, that Lawrence Cook is absent with notice this evening, so Mr. Adam Robb is going to be the lead on the two Development Services reports for this evening in Section H.
Thank you. So we're now at Section 8 in our agenda, and the first item is Development Services Planning Branch Memo Zoning Correction 18974 Leslie Street, Sharon Temple.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And through you, Development Services has two items tonight as mentioned, the first of which is our administrative zoning correction for the Sharon Temple property. The zoning correction is to reinstate the museum use as permitted for the Sharon Temple, which was inadvertently removed back in 2018 as part of the town's zoning bylaw review exercise by staff at that time. The Sharon Temple has operated as a museum since 1918, and this zoning issue was discovered by current staff as part of facilitating the relocation of the Howard House to the property. The zoning correction and reinstatement of the museum use is therefore necessary to permit the Howard House relocation effort and then continue to recognize the operation of the museum on site. With that, I can take any questions.
Thank you very much. Questions? I'm not seeing any. We do have a motion in front of us. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Foster. Councillor Roy DeClemente. Be it resolved that the Development Services Planning Branch Memorandum dated July 21st, 2022, entitled Zoning Correction 18974 Leslie Street, Sharon Temple, be received. All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you. Carried. Thank you very much. Our second item on development services is the Sharon Heritage Conservation District project update.
Yes, thank you. And through you, Madam Mayor, this next memo provides a general update to Council on the Sharon Heritage Conservation District project. A comprehensive procurement and evaluation process has been undertaken, which has involved staff as well as members of our Town Heritage Advisory Committee. And we are pleased to report the retention of Laterno Heritage Consulting, LHC, in partnership with Timmins Martell Heritage Consulting, TMHC, for the delivery of the project. Both companies are highly reputable and long-standing heritage consulting firms within Ontario, and their joint submission came in at $79,920, which is under the approved $100,000 capital budget for the project. The ability to have both firms under contract is a great benefit to the town, as we are able to capitalize on a wide variety of skill sets and resources, including archival research experts and mapping, design, and public engagement specialties. Public engagement will be thorough in developing this HCD plan, and the formal project commencement is anticipated this fall with an initial public open house session. The entire project is then anticipated to be completed by Q1 of 2024. And with that, I can take any further questions.
Thank you very much. Questions on this item? I'm not seeing any. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Roy DiClemente, Councillor Crone. All those in favor? And that's carried. Might there be anything else under this topic tonight?
That is it for development services.
Thank you very
Mayor.
much. I'll move along to item I for corporate services. Mr. Velchik,
Nothing further at this point, Madam Mayor.
thank you. Are there any items that members of council have under corporate services? Seeing none, I will move to finance with General Manager Marshall. Are you there tonight? There you are. Good to see you. Our agenda shows that there are none at this time. Is there anything that has come up of late that needs to be included?
Nothing at this time, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Anybody along our council here? Seeing none, we will move along to item K, and that's Community Parks, Recreation, and Culture with Mr. Carbazin.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, no prepared agenda items this evening and no further updates at this time.
Thank you. Mr. Webster, go ahead, please.
Mr. Karmazin, I wonder if you might just take a little bit of time to go through the help and where we're at right now with the tender, and so that council knows with sort of what the where we are and when the closing dates are, just leading up to the special council we're planning for the 16th of August.
Absolutely. We've been working diligently with procurement. We released the tender in late June, and we're expecting closing early August, August 9th. There have been a number of addendums with regards to activity, with regards to questions and answers, with the drawings and the specifications, which is a very good sign that the pre-qualified list of general contractors are very interested in the project, and we're anticipating some favorable results to report out to council on August 16th, and be happy to answer any questions related to the procurement process up to this date, and we're looking forward to a successful tender close and reporting out to council on August 16th.
Thank you very much. Questions from members of council? Councillor Roy DiClemente, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Mr. Karmazin. How many firms were pre-qualified for this process?
There was a total of 5 general contractors that were pre-qualified for this process. There was a number of firms that had submitted requests for pre-qualification, and we had been selective during the process, and we We had shortlisted 5 to enter into the tendering, the next phase, which is the tendering process.
Thank you very much. If there are no other questions from members of council, I'm happy to move receipt of the verbal appointment.
Thank you. Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Foster. I'm not seeing any other questions. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much, Mr. Karmazin. We're very anxiously waiting. I will move down to item L, and that's Community Infrastructure and Environmental Services with General Manager Molinari.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Nothing further at this time.
Thank you. Are there any items that members of council would like to address at this time? Seeing none, could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Crone, Councillor Morton. Okay, that's right. There was nothing, so we're just going to move along. Thank you, Mr. Molinari. We're down at Emergency and Community Safety Services with Chief McKenzie.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. It's Deputy Chief here. We have nothing further from Emergency and Community Safety Services. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Not seeing any. Could I have a mover and a seconder? For nothing. We'll move along. And we're at Legal Services with General Manager Sinclair.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Nothing to report this evening.
Councillor Morton, you had a question?
No, I didn't.
I'm not seeing any here. Thank you very much, Mr. Sinclair. Nice to see you this evening. We'll move along.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, thank you.
Madam Mayor, I did want to actually acknowledge Mr. Sinclair's efforts in getting the zoning amendment taken care of on behalf of the Sharon Temple. I'm the council liaison to the board, and I know he's worked with our staff as well with another hat on in order to get this to a resolution. I've been hearing about it for a number of years, so I'm happy to see it resolved, and I wanted to acknowledge his efforts.
Thank you. You'll move that? Seconded by Councillor Morton. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much, Mr. Sinclair.
Madam Mayor.
We are down to item O on our agenda, and it's correspondence for consideration. And just move it up here so I can see both parts of it. So we did receive a letter from the Character Community York Region, and it indicates that they are no longer going to operate. For many of us sitting here, we've been a part of that organization for a number of years. It first started when, I would say well over 10 years ago, with the banners that are up around our council chamber. And quite often in an evening when we thought there might be a little ruckus going on in our council chamber, some positive attributes were pointed out early in the meeting to make sure that people did deal with courtesy and respect, responsibility, courage. And I, for one, and I know that there's a couple others have spoken to me about these, kind of reminds you about good behavior in our organization. Then when we replaced the sidewalk outside, I believe that the character attributes are in the concrete. And so walking outside here, whether you're coming or going from the front to the back or vice versa, the attributes are quite recognizable, and let's hope that it has been speaking to some people, whether it's trust or initiative or optimism or fairness. And over the years, I think that most members of council, if not all, felt that it made a difference. It certainly made a difference for me, and I know there's others that have spoken to me about these banners around. So I am sorry to see it moving along. It certainly did make a difference, and that's exactly what they wanted to do. I would suggest that we send off a letter to the executive director and the board chair to thank them for their efforts over the years. And they truly have made a difference in our community, I believe. Any comments from Councillor Roy DeClemente? Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The initiative to put these banners in the council chamber, I think it was 3 terms ago, was an important one, and members of the audience can't necessarily see them, but we all can. And I think, absolutely, I think we should be sending a letter to the organization, but I think that these character attributes are ones that we want to continue to maintain and hold ourselves up to as values that we continue to espouse, regardless of whether there's an organization who's continuing to advocate for them. And so I would be happy to bring forward a motion that the character attributes that we have already espoused continue to be reflected in the values held by this organization.
Thank you. You took the words right out of my mouth. Thank
Okay.
you. Any other comments, questions? We have a mover. Could I have a seconder? Councillor Crothers, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. We are at item P for bylaws. There is one, and it is a bylaw, being a bylaw to amend a bylaw 2018-043 as amended with respect to the permitting of museums at 18974 Leslie Street, Sharon Temple. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Roy DeClemente, Councillor Crothers, all those in favor, and that's carried. I have no other business at this time. Does anyone else have other business that we should be dealing with tonight? Not seeing any. We have a confirming bylaw. Be it resolved that bylaw 2021-071 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council meeting held on July 21st, 2022 be taken as read, enacted, and signed by the mayor and municipal clerk. Moved by Councillor Morton, seconded by Councillor Foster. All those in favor? That's carried, and we would have an adjournment this evening at 7:16. Moved by Councillor Crone, seconded by Councillor Foster. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Have a great evening, everyone.